All right. So this morning what we're going to do is start talking about the mechanics of animation a little bit. We have two major things that we're going to be striving to accomplish. We're going to do a lab exercise together as a class. And there's a chance that we'll finish the lab exercise this morning, but there may not be a chance depending on how fast we move. And there's going to be a homework exercise that's going to take this a little bit further. So let's talk about those two in detail real fast. If we go back over into Canvas, let's just check out the two assignments that I've posted. Goodbye, Trip to the Moon. Just log into Canvas real fast. All right. If we cruise over into the Principles of Animation course shell, you'll find under the Week 2 module, I've gone ahead and posted this week's homework and lab assignment. Okay, so I'm just going to collapse Week 1, and let's just look at Week 2. Okay, so there's two things that we're going to do, and this is going to be the primary kind of modality that we're going to use to communicate all of our assignments. This is also going to be the place where you return when you're finished to submit all of your assignments. So let's just talk about the mechanics of that, especially if you're new to SEC or if you're new to working with inside of Canvas. This is an important part. So let's just look at the pendulum swing assignment. This is your homework. It's worth 50 points, and it's due on February 8th. Of course, Canvas does a really great job of communicating all of this information to you. I want you to draw focus just for one quick second here to the top line, the header of this assignment sheet, okay? Because this is going to tell you everything that you need to know. This is kind of like your 24,000-yard kind of perspective of what the details of this assignment are. So, okay, so it tells you the due date, okay? Now, you have and this may not be the due date. What is today's date? Yeah, so for you guys, it's going to say February 5th. For whatever reason, I have two different sections of this class, and Canvas, whenever I log in, it just randomly assigns me to whatever section. So sometimes the dates are going to be different. Point being, look here, okay, for your date, because for the other section, the Friday section, all the dates are naturally going to be different, okay? So Canvas is always going to tell you what's due and when it's due by, okay? So for the Friday crew, it's due on February 8th at 1 p.m., which is when their class meets. It's worth 50 points. And then submitting, this is physically what you're going to turn into this assignment sheet. So you're going to be submitting a file, okay? And we'll look at that here in a second. It also tells you the range of days that this assignment is going to be available for submission, okay? So on February 22nd at 1:01 p.m., this Dropbox is going to close, okay? And you will no longer be able to get points for this assignment, okay? At that point, you've had 3 opportunities to turn this assignment in. It's time for us to move on, okay? As they say, it's, at times it's best to lose the leg to save the body, okay? If you let all of these assignments just kind of hang out unfinished, they're going to serve as a sea anchor, and they're going to drag you all the way down to the ground and drown you, okay? So there's always, on every single homework and lab assignment, going to come a time when you fundamentally cannot get points for that assignment. This is where it communicates when that closure date is. You have 3 tries to turn in an assignment, okay? You have a due date, and then you get 2 additional tries, and then by the conclusion of that 3rd try, boom. Basically, it's a week, okay? Conclusion of that 3rd week, the Dropbox is going to close. This is an automatic closure, by the way, okay? So it's not like I'm just sitting there like 101 going, ha-ha, not today. No, it's just going to, boop, it's going to turn off automatically, okay? All right. So look here. These are the really crucial things. FYI, this is also going to show up in your own personal calendar on SEC. So these dates are really obvious. Canvas does a great job, if you allow it, through the settings, to spam you with notifications. Okay, it'll say, hey, you got something due tomorrow. Hey, you got something due today. Hey, it was due yesterday. So allow Canvas to be that nagging grandmother in your life, okay? Because it does a great job of doing it. It helps. I live and die by the notifications on my phone, right? If it's not in my personal calendar, it does not exist, okay? All right. In addition, before I walk away from the header, and I apologize, when you're finished with your assignment, you're going to come back to the assignment sheet, and it's right there, the gigantic button that says Submit Assignment. This is going to take you to the very bottom of the page, and I apologize for being zoomed in, where you're going to get this cool little prompt that says File Upload. And then you choose the file on your home PC or Mac or wherever you currently have that file stored, and you submit it to this assignment. Okay, once you hit this gigantic submit button, okay, attaching a file does not submit it. Okay, to complete your submission, you got to hit submit assignment. Okay, you can add as many files to one submission as you like. Often in this class, you're going to be submitting 2 different things. Okay. For one assignment, excuse me. So just attach both of those files to this submission area and you're good to go. Please don't thank me for being an awesome professor in the comments, because I know you guys are naturally going to want to do that. I'm being silly, okay? Now, you don't have to write anything in the comments. Sometimes you guys write entire essays in the comments explaining any number of different things. Not necessary at all. Just submit or attach the files, hit the submission button, and you're on your way. Make sense? Pretty easy. If you have any problems with this, come find me. I'd be more than happy to help. All right, so for this assignment, for your homework, you're going to be doing this. You're going to be animating a pendulum. Okay? We're going to come back to this here in a minute, because the pendulum swing gives us a great opportunity to very directly talk about one of a few of our core principles of animation. And we're going to learn and do kind of at the same time today, okay? So we're going to talk about some principles and we're going to put them into action. We're going to draw some stuff. And then we're going to talk about another principle and then put it into action a little bit, okay? So we're going to be sprinkling our process and the principles behind our process kind of as we go this morning. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So this is going to be your homework, okay? Come back to this in a second. In addition, we also have a lab assignment. And the lab assignment really allows us to, at times, and this is a great example, our lab assignments are going to be utility assignments, just to kind of get us to understand the process, to understand the technology a little bit. If you have a question, I want us to kind of explore those questions during lab time. Homework is really an opportunity for you to apply what you've learned and apply your understanding of an idea on your own. Lab time is for us to kind of digest it and pull it apart and really kind of figure out the mechanics of it together as a class. Make sense? So this week, our lab assignment is absolutely the most uncreative thing you will ever do the entire year, right? This is a utility assignment, just to kind of get us up and running with the process of animating using our technology. I've just simply called it the Screen Direction Lab. And inside the Screen Direction Lab, you will create the most award-winning bit of animation you've ever made. And it will be an object, and I don't care what that object looks like. It could be a cutout of my head. Don't make it a cutout of my head, okay? Going from one side of the screen to the other, and then back again, right? It's just kind of like a boomerang, just whew, okay? It doesn't have to loop, doesn't have to be exact. We're just trying to get some basic movement happening inside the frame itself, okay? This is going to allow us to do a couple different things. First and foremost, it's going to allow us to understand the process of animating in our animation package, which is uncreatively named Animate, okay? It's also going to allow us to export our project file into a format that's now viewable, okay? So this is going to be kind of a technical exercise versus a creative one, all right? At the end of this assignment, you're going to submit a couple different things, okay? And this is primarily going to be the format that we're going to use in here for the next couple of weeks. For this assignment and for a lot of assignments going forward, you're going to be submitting your project file, okay? This is your master animation frames, okay? The animation software we use is called Adobe Animate. It used to be called Adobe Flash, okay? Which is why the extension is .fla, okay? So you're going to be handing in your project file, okay? This is your master project file. This is where all of your animation data lives, okay? If there's one thing to preserve and back up 8 times, it is your Flash files, your FLAs, okay? Because without that, you have nothing, okay? In addition, well, our animations only exist inside of these Adobe Animate project files. The only way to view our Adobe Animate project files is to have what? Adobe Animate. You have to have that software. So we need to get it out of that software and into a format that we can share on Facebook or Instagram or wherever you want to post things online, right? Into an industry standard format that a lot of folks out there in the real world can view without having to have specialized software or plugins, okay? So we're going to be creating for the next couple of weeks some GIFs, okay? All right, which is, I know you guys are going to want to put in your text messages and stuff and share with your people on Facebook, right? Or Instagram. I guess Facebook is kind of for people my age, not for people your age anymore, right? Or so I was told. Anywho, okay? So that's going to be our goal for this week is these two things, our project file and our GIF. Okay? Make sense? Yes, ma'am.
Are we expected to have Adobe Animate on our home computer?
No, absolutely not. So the question was, are we expected to have the software on our home machines? The answer is there's zero expectation for you to buy the software. We provide access to that software as much as humanly possible down in the design lab. It's open 6 days a week, so there's definitely an opportunity outside of class to get access to the software. However, let me finish my sentence real fast. If you would like to get the software on your own, okay, you certainly could. There's a website that I encourage everyone to go to if they want to buy the software called College Buys. Oops, not .com, that was habit. collegebuys.org, okay? collegebuys.org allows you to buy academic licenses for all the software that we're going to use, specifically the Adobe stuff, okay? Or not. Okay, let's just do College Buys. Is it .org? It should be .org. Oh, our entire internet's not working right now. Awesome sauce. I broke it. Let me come back to you. Let's make sure it's not just me. Here we go. They changed the URL. I apologize. Store.collegebuys.org gets you into the store. Okay. Now what this is, it's just a web store. Okay. However, check it out. I'm a student, and check it out. This is why it's a little bit different than some of the other academic retailers out there. Is that the California Community College System has made a special kind of arrangement with College Buys to offer you academic software at sometimes a discounted price than other institutions, which is kind of nice, okay? So fill out all the forms. You know, here we are, Sacramento City College, submit. And let's see, it's in here somewhere. Here, let's just do Adobe, search for Adobe. Oh, there's even one right there, duh, Adobe. And I believe you can find, you don't have to, let's see, there's also a $20 a month. Oh, for students, you have to buy it a full year, okay? So $169 for a year access to all the software, okay? I went to the Adobe link at the top.
Yeah.
Adobe, yeah, oh, they've reorganized it a little bit. Let's see, yeah. Oh, this is not good.
I only have 4.
Yeah.
You have 6.
You have 6. Okay, actually,
You have 6, I have 4.
so Adobe, go, yeah, just do a search for Adobe. It's this thing. Oh, this is renewal only. Here's the brand new subscription. So $169 if you want to use this on your home PC or Mac. And again, there's no expectation that you actually do this. But if you want to have access to it at home, this is the best way to get access to it. Legally, this is the best way to get access to it. Okay? All right. Don't worry about it. I'll let you explore on your own. Okay? You have it in front of you. So we're going to be using some software called Adobe Animate. Okay? And you can find Adobe Animate way down here in the bottom. It's that icon, just chilling in your dock. Okay? If you'd like, if you're sitting in front of the machine, and most of you are, go ahead and launch the application. Let's get started. Animation is not one of those art forms that you can kind of learn by osmosis, right? Being around animation is not going to allow you to learn animation. You fundamentally have to get your hands dirty with this, okay? This is going to be a hard experience for most people, and it certainly was for me, because we have to come to grips very quickly that you are taking the first step in a very, very long journey, okay? Remember, the guys and gals that we saw and working on Fantasia, those are master animators and artisans, okay? They're at the end of their careers. You guys are at the very, very first steps of yours. So keep your expectations in check. You're not going to be making Fantasia or Star Wars this week, this year, this decade, okay? So keep your expectations in check, and remember that this is a slow process, okay? Learning animation it kind of follows a very similar process of making animation. It's just slow. Okay, it's just slow. And there really is no way to expedite this. every one of you guys, and I've been teaching animation here at SCC for over 10 years, and I've learned that the initial reaction is you're gonna see how hard this is, or you're gonna see how slow this is, because it's not actually hard, right? But you're gonna see how slow this is, and you're gonna go, it's gotta be easier, right? There's gotta be a faster way of doing this. There's not a faster way of doing this, okay? This actually is the way we do this, okay? And if you think that doing 3D animation is any faster, yeah, no, it's not any faster, okay? So just lean into the idea. Be open to the idea that this is going to be slow, okay? But what's cool about this, and one of the reasons why I like doing it, is that when we start to slow down, it gives us an opportunity to think and to consider and to be real mindful of the things that we're going to create, okay? And this is why animation often feels very kind of personal, because the folks that were making it were not trying to do it as fast as they could. They were just trying to make a really good drawing that communicates something, okay? So just lean into it. I think you're going to find that animation gets a whole lot more fun when you just kind of accept the reality that this is a little slow, okay? All right. All right, so welcome to Adobe Animate, and I apologize, I thought one light was going to be enough. I'm going to turn off another light real fast. Your new home away from home, as they say. There we go, that's much better. All right, so when you launch Adobe Animate, this is what you're going to find, and the first thing that we need to create is a canvas. We need to have some sort of environment for us to create our drawings in. Now, we're going to be participating in the television and film industry, so there are some legit standards that we have to follow and practice. I'm kind of jealous of my friends in the fine art world. Well, they can just kind of do whatever the hell they want to do, right? If they want to make a drawing in a circle, they can do that, right? But in our world, there are some regulations and some standards of practices that we have to follow to ensure that everything shows up on that television screen correctly, to ensure that everything shows up on the cinema screen correctly, okay? Now, luckily for us, the developers down at Adobe have done us a solid, and they've given us a whole series of canvas-sized presets that will allow us to enter into this world very directly. Let's do it real fast. So I'm going to start my day by doing File, New. Okay, now you should get this little wizard, this little template wizard here. And where we're going, if you're in the General tab, where we're going to go is the Templates tab right here. And then specifically, the Media Playback category, and we're going to choose the Title Safe Area HDTV 720. You can kind of see the chain of the selected components inside of my little popover. So Media Playback, Title Safe. Did everyone find it? If you found it, just go ahead and hit OK. You're going to see that your Animate interface is going to come to life a little bit. So what we are doing is that we are creating a frame, a canvas, a piece of paper, if you will, that matches the same aspect ratio and size of that television over there in the corner. Okay? We have to live within inside of these broadcast standards as animators. We just can't do whatever we want. There's an entire governing body in our industry that comes up with all these standards and moves us forward as new technology is developed and established, okay? Because if we didn't have these governing bodies, right, it'd be like the wild, wild west. Every animation studio would be doing something different. This gets us all on the same page. All right, now that we have a canvas, let's just take a small tour here of what our interface looks like. And I apologize, I'm just going to turn off my dock for a second. Okay. All right, so welcome to Animate, our new home away from home. As you can imagine, the central part of our interface, this is where we're going to be doing our drawing. Okay, this is going to be fundamentally our digital piece of paper. Animate is a pretty neat tool. It's a WYSIWYG tool. Does anyone know what WYSIWYG stands for? It's an acronym, and maybe I should draw it on the board so everyone is on the same page. WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. You got it. What you see is what you get. Okay, WYSIWYG. Okay. Which makes the process of animating a little bit easier, because if what you see on this piece of paper, that's what's going to show up in the final animation. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. So this is going to be our canvas. Technically, this is called the stage, if you will. Okay, it's just a piece of paper in my imagination. Where we're going to be doing the lion's share of our work is down here in our timeline. Okay, and our timeline allows us to see all of the keyframes, the drawings, and then of course all of the layers within inside of our stage that create our final illusion itself. We're lucky to be working inside of the Adobe kind of collection of tools because we're able to take some technology that's found in Photoshop and bring it over here into Animate and start taking advantage of it, right? Since we're talking about Photoshop for a second, I think it's really important to set an expectation. This is not Photoshop, okay? Fundamentally not Photoshop, okay? Photoshop is the world's best, digital imaging and illustration tool. It's phenomenal. The paint engine and the drawing engine in Photoshop is honestly best in class, okay? It is the reason that Adobe is the 900-pound gorilla in this world, right? It is because of Photoshop. It is king. It really is, okay? Over the years, Photoshop has kind of become a little bloated, and they've added a lot of functionality into Photoshop. And they tried very, very directly to add some animation tools into Adobe Photoshop, and they failed miserably, okay? So Photoshop has the best drawing tools, okay, the best brushes, the best everything, right? But it has the worst animation system, okay? Animate is kind of the exact opposite, right? It's got the best animation engine, okay, but really not great drawing tools, okay? We're going to be using Animate to block out our animation, to establish the fundamental framework of our movements, and then if we'd like, and only if you'd like, okay, you can take those drawings, those rough out frames over to Photoshop and really start to craft them into more final, finished, polished pieces of artwork. And we'll get to that much later on in the semester, but this is a struggle that we all have, is that we try to make Animate into Photoshop. It's not Photoshop, so let's just not even try to make it into Photoshop, okay? I struggle with this too, like pressure sensitivity. I would love a little bit more pressure sensitivity. If the Adobe developers are listening to my live stream right now. No, I'm live streaming, by the way. I forgot to mention that. So you're going to be able to see all this stuff, on YouTube, on my YouTube channel when I'm finished today. Okay. All right. So our timeline is going to be a central part of our workflow. It's probably the most important part of our workflow. So let's kind of define real fast how we're going to use this, okay, or how this area works. So we have two different layers. This is kind of our throwaway layer. If you look very carefully, I've selected this layer, the title action safe layer, and we have a whole series of icons inside this area, okay? What's this first row going to do? If I was to click on the little dot, what would you imagine is going to happen? Yeah, everything's going to become invisible. So this is the visibility column. So if I click on that dot now, and you can kind of start to see it click away up here, now the visibility of the contents of that layer are going on and off, okay? Padlock, what would you imagine? It's going to lock it so we can actually we can draw some stuff and then prevent us from going in and messing with those drawings later on if we'd like. We can fundamentally lock them down, which is kind of nice. And this last one, this is kind of a utility thing that's really not important in the process of animating, but we can change, we can change it from a guide layer into an action layer. We'll talk more about that later on, okay? For today, I don't need this thing, so I'm going to throw it in the garbage can, okay? I only want to have just this one layer. How do I do that? Has anyone stumbled on to the solution of deleting a layer? You could right-click on it. Honestly, I don't know if it's in that right-click menu. Let's find out. Delete layers, that's there, yep. There's another way, and this is the way I do it. Trash can. I'm a big fan of the trash can. Boom, just click on the trash can when the layer is selected, and it will throw that thing away. Okay. So these icons down here will allow us to delete. Not so much copy. Create a new layer. Okay. So if we wanted to have more than one layer, we certainly can. And then the middle one allows us to create a folder, so we can start organizing these layers into groups if we'd like to. Okay. So we change the visibility and the function of our layers in these columns, and this is our way of managing our layers down in the bottom left hand. Okay, so let's make some content. Okay, let's make some content inside of our canvas so we can start getting used to what this looks like. Okay, I want you to look at my timeline here for a second. Okay, so we have our the layer name, and then we have our timeline, okay? What do all these numbers represent in our timeline? Frames. And they're really kind of the potential for frames. Animate has a very unique operating environment, okay? Remember, this is an old school 2D animation package, right? In every sense, it's kind of building off of the system from the 30s and the 40s, right? These are containers for potential animation frames, okay? So this is not like After Effects or Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro where we have like this infinite timeline, okay, available to us. Here, we physically have to create animation frames, okay? These things in here. I apologize. See how we have, let's see if I can get this out of the way. The red thing is the current time indicator, also known as the playhead. We only have one frame, so I can't move it out of the way. But can you see this little gray bar behind that red line? That is a frame. Every Animate project file is initially created with a single empty frame. Okay, so I'm going to write some things on the board because the kind of the vernacular of working inside of Animate is a little different, and it's going to take you a good couple weeks to get up and running with it. Admittedly, it is not the most communicative. Okay. So if this is a dark gray bar, okay, dark gray bar, this is equals an empty frame. Empty frame, nothing in it, right? I know there's nothing in it because if we were to zoom out and look at our stage, it's just white, right? We don't have any content in there. The background color does not denote any sort of content. It's just empty, okay? So let's put something in there real fast. Let's create some content, something that's going to be a member of our drawing so that we can start filling our frames with information, okay? Which brings us to this side of our interface. These are all of our tools in Animate. And there are a bunch of them. Some we're going to use very often, some we're never going to use, okay? But the toolbar is way over here on your right. And I'm just simply going to create an oval using the oval tool, okay? And I'll make it not blue. I'll make it a lovely shade of green. I like green. I'm in a green mood today, okay? And now, I'm going to hold down the Shift key and left-click drag an oval, okay? Now, you can make any shape. I don't care what it looks like. Just put something on your stage. The moment you start clicking on your stage, look what happened to our frame down there in our timeline. How did it change? So two things happened. The dot filled in, right? It went from being just kind of an outline, and now it's a colored dot. What's the other difference? Yeah, it's a fundamental different color, okay? So this was dark gray, and let me put this, whoops. Dark gray is empty frame, okay? Same thing, okay? This time, the dot is filled in, okay? This is a keyframe. I'll just put light gray background. These are really important distinctions because they tell us quite instantaneously whether or not the current frame that we're working on has a drawing in it or doesn't have a drawing in it. Okay, if it's empty or if it's got something that's important in there. Okay? Now, I've just said a critical bit of vocab here. A keyframe. Okay? A keyframe. Does anyone know what a keyframe is? Arthur. Andrew, I'm sorry, not Arthur.
It's the main point of the animation. You usually start with a lot of keyframes and just kind of fill everything in. So you have like a beginning, a middle, and then an end.
I like it. I like it. So it's kind of like the main points of our movement. Yeah, absolutely. What's your name again?
D'Angelo.
D'Angelo. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say the same thing you were going to say.
Think of it like this. You guys are comic book fans in here? Love comic books, right? Comic books are fantastic. If you look at a comic book, the pictures in a comic book are a whole series of key frames. They've distilled very complex movements and very complex story moments into a singular drawing. So I like to imagine that keyframes are really the DNA of an entire movement. If we were to only show our audience these key frames, they'd still get it, right? If they just saw 2 or 3 pictures of a movement, they'd still understand what that movement's going to be, right? We don't have to show them the fluidity that's created by drawing every in-between frame, right? It's just the key frames, just the key frames, okay? These are our storytelling frames. These are the most important frames that define the function of this movement, okay? That's what a key frame is, okay? So we've just created a key frame, okay, by putting some content in our canvas, okay? So this is pretty good. I'm pretty stoked. Woohoo! Great job, Pat. I just made a drawing, okay, using Animate. But, of course, this is animation. We need to create a whole series of these, okay? So now we have to create some more frames, okay? Because we only have one animation frame in our timeline. I would like this to be more than one animation frame. So in the next part of our sequence is to create an additional keyframe. Now I'm going to create the world's best animation frame. I'm going to have my little sphere, my little green ball, go from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. I've been waiting my entire life for this, right? This is it. We're going to keep it simple on day one, right? So in our animation process, we're going to create an additional keyframe, okay? These keyframes are the storytelling moments. Remember, if the audience was to just see these keyframes, they get it, right? They'd understand what this movement's going to be. So I'm going to duplicate that drawing, okay? Keyframes are selectable. Notice that I just clicked on it in my timeline and went gold, right? And I'm going to hit, oops, I apologize, I did it too quickly. To duplicate a keyframe, I'm not going to redraw the sphere because I want the sphere to stay its exact same shape throughout the entirety of my animation, right? I'm going to hit the F6 key, F6 at the top, and I'm going to hit it just one time. Bloop. Now look what happens downstairs in my timeline. It duplicates that keyframe. It duplicates that drawing. So I have 2 pictures in my stack of drawings that look identical to each other at the moment, right? So F6. This is an important one. I'm going to write it on the board so everyone can remember. F6. And I'm just going to put dupe for duplicates. Oops. Duplicate keyframe. Yep. F6. Since I have 2 drawings that are identical to each other, playing back the animation would look like what? Nothing. Because I have 2 drawings that are identical, so there's going to be no movement in here. Now that I have 2 drawings in my timeline, I can begin to move my current time indicator, my playhead, by just left-clicking and dragging it inside the timeline itself. Remember, this is a WYSIWYG application, and the current location of the playhead is critical, because the current location of the playhead is going to determine which drawing we're going to edit, okay? Because I want to change and edit my number 2 drawing, okay? This is the key frame. So I want to move my playhead forward. Okay, so now any change that I make is only going to happen on that drawing, right? Not going to touch that one. The location of the playhead determines what's changed, okay? And simply, I'm going to go to my toolbar, way up over here now, in the upper right-hand corner, and I'm going to grab the direct selection tool, okay? It's the dark arrow, V for Victor on your keyboard. And now I can click on my sphere, and I want to move it to the opposite side of my screen. So I have one drawing on frame number 1. So if I move this back, yoink, I have a drawing over here where my ball is on the left-hand side. And then if I click on the second drawing on frame number 2, I've placed that drawing on the other side. Okay? What's helpful for me to go through this, or as I'm going through this, is to think of these frames as drawings. Okay? Don't think of them as animation frames. Just think of them as physical pieces of paper sitting on your desk. I have one piece of paper where the sphere is on one side, and I have another piece of paper where the sphere is on the opposite side. Okay? All right. Congratulations. You just made your first 2 keyframes. Okay? So I've defined what the total movement's going to be. At the beginning of my animation, it's going to be over here on the left. At the end of the animation, it's going to be over here on the right. Okay? That's step number 1, to establish all of our keyframes in our animation sequence. Okay? Step number 2 in our animation sequence, Step number 2 in our animation sequence is to time it out. Okay? Timing. Our keyframes defined what our animation is going to be. Now we need to very quickly establish how long our animation is going to be, right? It's going to take you 15 years of hardcore dedicated movement study to get good at timing. It's probably the most difficult thing to learn because it absolutely requires a tremendous amount of observation. So timing is all about figuring out the speed of movement. And the duration of that movement is directly linked to how fast or how slow it's going to happen, right? So now, instead of figuring out, instead of trying to visually communicate the movement, now we got to think about how fast we want it to move and how long that movement's going to be. So let's figure this out. I don't know what the answer to this question is. We have to explore this as animators, right? How fast we want it to take to go from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. A second? 24 frames? 12 frames? Let's do 12 frames, half second. That way we don't have to make a bazillion of these things, right? A bazillion drawings today, okay? So let's just pretend that the animation supervisor comes in, or you say to yourself, I want it to go, I want it to take 12 frames to go from the left side to the right side, okay? Let's see what that looks like in movement a little bit. Let's start exploring what this whole process could be. So what I'm going to do is once again return to my timeline. And I'm going to start the in-between exploration process, the timing process. So I want to select the first one, okay? The first keyframe represents the drawing where my sphere is on the left, right? And I'll just kind of stay zoomed in like that so everyone can see what I'm doing. With the first keyframe selected, I'm going to hit F5 twice, 1, 2, okay? If you're following along and if you just hit F5, what happened to your timeline? Yeah, I like it. I stretched that drawing. F5 creates a hold on that drawing. Okay? We're holding that drawing for multiple frames now. We're not duplicating it, we're holding it. We're saying, hey, we're going to see you inside of our timeline for 3 frames now instead of seeing this one picture for 1 frame. Imagine it like this. Okay, let's go back to the 20s. When they were filming these things, they'd put the drawings down on a gigantic, underneath. I used to have in my old classroom an honest animation stand. Okay, and it was from the 40s. It was awesome. It was cool. It was a 1940s era animation camera and stand, right? And it had the motion picture camera up above it, had the huge big desk underneath it with all the pegboards and the dials and stuff. It was great. It was donated to me by the city of Sacramento, and it was awesome, right? And then when I moved rooms, we said, there's no place for your cool animation camera, and now it's somewhere on campus. And I don't know where somewhere is. It's probably, I have a theory that it's underneath like the bleachers in the football stadium. Honestly, I think that's where it is. Anyways, so in the 30s and the 40s, they take their drawing. If you wanted to hold it, okay, you put it down on the table, and then you take a picture of it. And then if you wanted to hold it for a couple different frames, you take some extra pictures of it, right? And the more pictures we have of the exact same drawing, the more static that drawing is going to look, okay? So we've taken 3 pictures of this one drawing on our timeline by hitting F5. Look at the icon here. The icon is kind of different. The background color is still that light gray, but now instead of a dot, we have another rectangle. Okay? See? The first frame is the keyframe, the one with the black dot. And then there's a bar, and at the conclusion of that bar is a unfilled rectangle. Okay? This is the conclusion of a keyframe, or the last frame of a drawing. So we're holding that drawing for three seconds, or for 3 frames, excuse me, not for 3 seconds. Okay? Make sense? Everyone with me so far? Okay. So this is where we get to experiment. We use this timing sequence and hitting F5 to experiment, to explore how long we want the ball to take to go from the left side to the right side. This takes some projection, a tremendous amount of practice to kind of see what it's going to look like way out there in Never Never Land. Okay? You have to pretend, okay? And you're allowed to pretend in this space. I know in more rational areas of our campus, like the sciences, they discourage you from pretending. In here, I encourage you to pretend, and I want you to do it as often as you can and as frequently as you can, okay? This is part of our workflow. You have to pretend I'm forcing you to return to kindergarten, okay? Yes, ma'am?
Does the amount of times you hit F5 determine how many frames it is?
Bingo. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if I wanted to hold this thing, and I think initially we said, yeah, we're about a half second or so for it to go to the left side or the right side, okay? I'm going to hit F5, select that keyframe, and I'm going to hit F5 until this frame right here is chilling on frame 12. At the very bottom of our timeline, we have a whole series of VCR play controls. So let's just hit the play button. Boop. Boop. And that's it. So now we're playing our timeline back in time. Pretty simple, right? It's magic, okay? It's not exactly the most wonderful magic trick, but this is kind of our system, right? So we create our keyframes, and then we time out our keyframes, okay? Now, why do we time out our keyframes before we draw or before we have a whole series of independent drawings that cleanly kind of describe the movement of our ball going from the left side to the right side? Why do we time this out? Why do we have to pretend and kind of project in our imagination what this movement's going to be? Bingo. It gives us an opportunity to edit before we jump into the really laborious part, which is creating all the in-betweens, right? Maybe we show this to our director or our animation supervisor, and he or she says, cool, or it's way too slow or way too fast, okay? We need to have those answers now before we jump into in-betweens, okay? Here's how it works often out there in the real world. A senior animator will do all the keyframes first. He or she is the master animator that's been studying this craft for 20 years, okay? He or she will go in, they'll block out all the keyframes and define what the movement's going to be. They will then share that animation with the producer, the director of the show, maybe a team of supervisors, and they'll get some feedback. Because we want to get our feedback really early on just a couple of drawings, okay? We don't want to be receiving feedback on 2,000 drawings. We want to be only getting feedback on a handful of drawings, right? Because managing a handful of drawings, that's easy, right? Making changes to 4 or 5 drawings, that's easy. Making changes to 200, that's hard, okay? So, and then the animation supervisor will come back with their stack of drawings, and they'll say, David, you're my junior animator, poof, fill in the blanks. Physically draw all the in-betweens, okay? Okay? And the in-betweens are where the labor is, okay? This is the part that takes forever, because now we've blocked out the movement with our keyframes, and we need to kind of fill in the blanks now, okay? So the keyframes define what the movement's going to be, and then it also defines the timing in between the movements, okay? And this is the critical step, is that understanding of how long and how fast or slow the objects in our timeline or objects in our movement need to be to create the illusion that we're after, all right? So I'm going to say that my animation, my director or my animation supervisor said, great job, Pat, this is awesome. And now I need to start translating this into actionable in-between frames, okay? I want every single frame, we desire at the end of this to have every single frames between 1 and 12 to have a little black dot on it, okay? Let's just do it real fast. It's really easy. Our keyframes are targets, but we need to start filling in the blanks between our targets so that we get nice fluid movement, okay? This is one of the things that made the Walt Disney Animation Studios stand out from the rest of the pack in its early years, is that they put a premium and they actually went in and did all the in-betweens, which is why their movements look so fluid and so lifelike, okay? So let's go to frame 2, and I'm going to convert this hold keyframe into an actual keyframe. And we simply do that once again by hitting F6. So if we have a hold frame like we did, and then we select it and hit F6, it converts it from a hold frame into an actual keyframe, a little black dot. Now, with a little black dot, this frame here is completely independent, okay, as is this frame. So let's just do it real fast. Let's step through this process. So on frame number 1, our ball is right here. On frame number 2, I want it to be a little bit forward, right? I want to move it to the right ever so slightly. Whoop. Maybe, oops, right here. Okay? I like it. On frame 3, say again, question? I just moved it to the right. Just as far as you want, yeah. Just as far as you want. As you go through this process, here's a great keyboard shortcut that you are going to lean on very directly. They're called the caret keys on our keyboard. They're the ones that look like this. They're way down. They're the period and comma keys on your keyboards, okay? These are going to advance your playhead forward and backwards 1 frame at a time, okay? Yeah?
I don't know what I did, why I still have a circle behind them.
Ah, yes, okay. So if you have an outline, what you're seeing there is the stroke, the outline of your green sphere. You can simply select it and delete it if you like. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do one more. I'm on frame 3. I'll hit F6 again to convert my hold frame into a keyframe. And then once again, I want to move it forward a little bit. If we play back the animation, we can start to see, and I'm just clicking and dragging on the playhead, we can start to see the relative movement unfold in front of us. Okay? If I hit the Enter key, it actually will play the animation. I mean, it happens very quickly because it's only 12 frames, half a second, but we're starting to make it work.
I erased it and then I erased it on my old.
Don't worry about it for right now. Yeah, what I would probably have done is I would have gone into the direct selection tool and just clicked on and hit the delete key. But you're good. Just keep going. Just keep going. The actual quality of our drawings are unimportant at this stage. We're just trying to get it to move. Rinse and repeat. Keep going with this for a couple seconds. Try to get your object, whatever it is, to move.
I hit F6 now.
Ah, okay. So what happened with Shannon? Shannon, okay. So what happened with Shannon is she had multiple frames selected, and then she hit F6, and they converted all of those frames from hold frames into keyframes. Command Z.
Okay.
There you go. Now, as I look around the room, I can see many of you guys are going nutsoid here. I love it. Any questions? Question? You look like you have a question.
I need help.
Okay, great. What do you need help with? I'm here to help.
I'm not as computer literate as I need to
Okay.
be. So here's my first frame. Okay, here's
Mhm.
my second. I hit F6, or I hit F6 several times, so I had to go back and delete all those frames.
Let's start here. Select your first drawing.
Okay, here.
down here in our timeline. The background will go gold. Just click on it.
Okay.
Oops. Other mouse button. That's number 2. Go a little bit to your left. Try to click on that black dot for me right there. Perfect. Oh, there it is. We got it.
Okay.
Cool. So now hit F6.
Okay. F6.
Boom. Check it out, because now we have 2,
Okay.
right? So F6 is going to duplicate that frame.
That I understand.
Great.
Okay.
So now, see how number 2 is gold?
Yes.
We can click on this here in the
Okay.
drawing, and I can see you're still in the shape creation tool. So let's do this.
Okay. That's
Now we'll
what
go
I want.
back to the direct selection, the dark arrow.
Okay.
There we go.
And
then
go
you can just
back
click on your
here.
shape. Yeah. See how you have the icon changes a little bit? It's got kind of like a movement icon behind it. And then just
So-
drag it to any direction you want to go.
Because I was getting a black oval and it wasn't.
Whoops. I'm not sure what's going on here. Hit undo a couple stages. This is a cool thing about this is if we always make a mistake, Command Z allows us to go backwards. Hold down both. Hold down the Command key. There we go. It's perfect. Good.
Okay. Now come back here
Yep.
and do
And then just
this.
click and drag. Do you mind if I try just for 1 second? I don't know
I
if
don't
this is
understand.
you
I have
or
mine
okay.
right there.
So
I'm
I think
doing it
the thing that I'm doing a little differently is that I'm just clicking and holding, and then I'm moving.
Okay.
Yeah, and that seems to be working now.
Okay.
All right? Great. Yeah.
Even when I do it, I have that circle that goes
Okay.
with it, and I don't understand why. It shows
Yeah.
the Command Z and just.
No. We don't
I
have to. We don't have to.
Well, my
we don't have
thing
to
is,
start over.
I don't. I'm just gonna hit it a couple times so you can see. What
Yeah,
I'm
I can see it.
No. What I'm confused about
Yeah.
is it supposed to be like highlighted?
Yes.
you hit
Now,
F6?
you were doing this sequence here with the keyframe is absolutely perfect. The problem is the drawing. Okay. In Animate,
It wasn't on the first one.
in Animate, the outline, the black stroke, is a separate object from the fill. Okay. So when you move, you can move them independently from each other. However, we can also select them. Okay. See, it looks like both of them are selected here, but in actuality, we've only selected one. Okay. It's weird. I understand.
I don't understand why these aren't going away.
But here's the larger point, okay? Go back to, this is a WYSIWYG system, right? So once you, okay, well, let's just stop right here for a second, okay? And I want you to, actually, let's do a redo, Command Shift. Well, that's okay. That's actually mine. Move your sphere, well, I think,
Oh, now it's fine.
it's not, and this is cool. Just select that outline. Physically click on the black line. Yeah, click on it. See how he selected it? Hit the delete key. Now it's gone.
Why did it
Okay.
in the first place?
When you drew the circle, Adobe Animate has a system where it will draw the outline for it and the fill shape. So 2 different objects that are being created at the exact same time
Why didn't anybody else's do that?
because it was turned off. We can turn yours off too, and I can turn it. I mean, we're going to talk about that here in a minute because there are some nuances to the system that we need to explore. Just keep going. You're not turning this in, so it doesn't matter how this looks. Okay. Okay. A couple different things to help you out because I can see that a lot of you guys are doing some really great little work here. Some things that will help. Okay. As I click through this, it's really kind of difficult to see all the previous frames and all the future frames. Like I'm really interested to see where in our canvas that drawing is. Like what's my target? How far am I physically trying to move this frame across this drawing across the entire canvas, right? It would be great to be able to see into the future and see into the past a little bit to help me make very nuanced, educated edits, okay? We can do this by enabling something called onion skinning, which is going to allow us to basically make all of the drawings transparent. And it's really easy to turn this on. Let me show you where to go. It's down here at the bottom. Go away, Doc. Is this icon right here. Onion skinning. Okay? Now watch what happens to the way Animate is. I'm going to go to frame 3 here. And remember, I have 2 other frames before it. When I turn on my onion skinning, look what happens. Okay? A couple things change. First and foremost, look at the colors. The colors are important. We get a small range slider down here at the bottom that is going to allow us to customize which drawings we want to have onion skinned. Okay? Anything that's of kind of like lighter blue is the past. Anything that's green is the future. Okay? So I can see the location of my sphere on frames 1 and frames 2 by turning on onion skinning, right? If I was to increase the duration of my range slider here to include that final keyframe, check it out, there's the future, okay? That's my target. That's what I'm aiming for, okay? Now I can add additional in-betweens with the information that I need to make some good decisions, okay? I'm going to go down just for a second here. Check this out. This is really annoying. See how it's only as I march my playhead forward, it's changing that range slider up at the top? This is super annoying, right? Because oftentimes you just want to set the range of frames you want to onion skin to preview and then to lock it in place, okay? We can turn this functionality on and off in a little menu found right here. Okay, I don't want, as I advance forward, I don't want the tail of my range slider to continue to shrink. I always want to see where these 3 frames are. I just want to lock that range slider in place. And we can do that easily by going into this button and then choosing anchor markers. Okay, now this is going to basically lock those range sliders, and now when I navigate around inside that range, see how they're not changing anymore? That range slider is just kind of static. That's what I like, because now I can just simply go to frame drawing number 4. Okay, I can, it's down to lock it. It's in this pull down button right here, and it's anchor markers. Okay, so now I can go to frame 4, hit F6, select my drawing, and move it forward and have a really good understanding of how that edit to my animation influences the rest. So I'm just going to zip through this real fast. Just advancing forward, hitting F6. The last, but certainly not least. All right, there we go. There's my little animation. It's not good, but it will do. Let's turn the onion skinning off by returning to that button and hitting the return key. And yes, you have to do the sound effects. Life is better with sound effects. It really is. And there it is. Congratulations. You now, in Honest, have made your first animation. Okay? Awesome. Yeah.
I don't know if you were going to explain this, but we were talking about doing 24 frames per second, but I guess according to the little timeline thing here, they're doing it 30 frames?
That's fine. For today, I'm just happy to get something in movement.
Well, is there a way to actually change that?
Yes, absolutely. So if you'd like to change it, just make sure that none of your keyframes are selected. Notice that nothing's selected down here. I just have my layer selected. And then over in your properties panel, you can just change it right here if you'd like. There we go. Now we're playing back at the appropriate frame rate. We'll talk about that again in the future. That's not the only time we're going to talk about it. And try not to overwhelm people with a zillion little properties and bells and whistles and buttons that you have to click on the first animation. It gets to be a thing. Question? So if you want to change your frame rate, and again, we'll talk about this again as we get a little bit further on, just ensure that none of your keyframes are selected. If a keyframe is selected, we're going to see just the properties of that keyframe. So I'm going to drop the selection of my keyframe by clicking on the empty area of my timeline, and then the properties panel will show us the properties of the entire timeline. And I simply just changed it to 24. All right, other questions? Everyone good? Everyone feeling it so far? All right, so we have made an animation, right? Good job. I knew you could do it. Good job, right? Now, we need to do two things. We need to save our animation, and then we need to export our animation so it gets in a file format that we can put on Instagram, right? I think Instagram can do GIFs, right? Right, it can? Yeah, awesome. I honestly don't know. I'm trying to get into the whole Instagram thing because that's kind of like our department is using Instagram to promote ourselves as we kind of go forward in the future. So Instagram is kind of it's weird because I remember when Facebook bought Instagram. Did you guys know that Instagram is actually a Facebook property, which I find incredibly, it's an evil genius moment, right? The lords of Facebook bought Instagram with the ideas of probably, hey, Facebook is probably not going to be hip and cool. Let's gobble up all the other social media networks so that we're always in control, right? Anyways, all right. Okay, so we need to get this out of Adobe Animate and into a format that we can share on the web, right? Because our animations only exist in Animate at the moment. Now, luckily for us, it's really, really, really easy to do this. Let's start off by saving our project file. So File, Save, okay? Or you can do Save As. I'm happy with Save As. It's going to bring up the OS Finder. I'm going to save mine to my desktop, and I'm just going to call this Pat's Crazy Anim, okay? And notice the type of document that's going to be created. This is the project file. It's a .fla. Animate has its root in a program called Flash, which is why it's FLA, for Flash Animation, okay? When we hit the Save button, the Animate project file will be created. I saved mine on my desktop, and simply put, this is what the icon looks like, okay? Please keep these. These are your master files, okay? This contains all of your keyframed information, all of the drawings that you created here in Animate. It is it. If you lose this one file, you've lost everything, okay? So these become the most prized possessions inside of the bundle of things that you're going to be creating in this class. So keep track of these, okay? Now this file format, or this file here, the .fla, is only openable by Adobe Animate. We want to create a GIF so we can share this online. We can easily post it to Canvas. So back in Animate again. Now, once again, we're going to return to the File pull-down menu, but instead of doing Save As, we're going to hit Export. Export, and then Export Animated GIF. We won't be making GIFs all semester. We're actually only going to be making GIFs for the next 2 or 3 weeks, just to kind of get us up and running. Inside the traditional feature film and television pipeline, of course, we're not going to be using GIFs, right? That's not going to happen. Why don't we use GIFs? Does anyone know why?
Short.
They can be. Often they're very short. Okay. There's no sound, which is a big thing for us. Okay.
They're kind of small.
They're kind of small. It's amazing that the GIF is still around, right? Because I don't know these as GIFs. I know them as CompuServe GIFs. Okay. The GIF is one of the first image formats and animated image formats for the web. So this image format itself goes all the way back to like the early 90s, okay? And it's been around since the dawn of the internet. It was the primary distribution format for images on the web, okay? So what that means is that they are heavily compressed, okay? I mean, you guys have seen these on, out there. GIFs are there. There's only like 128 colors. Everything is really pixelated, and there's a lot of artifacts, right? Because these things are super compressed into just a couple kilobytes, okay? So in the larger feature film production pipeline, we don't want to use a compressed format. We're going to use a different format. So we're going to kind of graduate into a more professional pipeline as we get some more experience in here, okay? But for today and for the next couple of weeks, as we're kind of getting our sea legs, as they say, we're going to be making GIFs. Let's just do it real fast. All right, so when you export out a GIF, you're going to get this little popover, okay? This is the export image engine, and this allows us to change the quality a little bit. You know, I'm a big believer that just leave all this stuff at the defaults, okay? What we're going to be creating in this class is going to be so small and so insignificant that it really doesn't matter. We want to leave it at maximum quality. This is kind of cool. Down in the bottom right-hand corner of this form, you can see that we can actually play our animations. We can actually tell it what behavior to do after it plays this animation, okay? So we can only have the computer play it once, or we can have it just kind of cycle this thing over and over and over again, if we like. You can even play it down here. It's a great way to get a good spot check on your animation before we send it out. And let's save it. Hit save. Takes just about a nanosecond to do it. And let's go check it out. All right. So these are the two things that we've created for our animation today. We've created the FLA, which is our Adobe Animate project file. And then we've also created our GIF. So I'm ready to submit to Canvas. This is it. Okay, I've created everything that I need for this assignment. Here's here's Pat's power user trick of the day. If you want to spot check your GIF, okay, you want to look at it before you submit, which I think is an excellent, excellent strategy. Okay, always look at the stuff that you made before you submit it. Just don't assume. Oftentimes on the Mac, people double click on it. Okay, if you double click on it, it's going to open it up in preview. And what am I seeing here? Yeah, we're seeing each individual frame of our animation, which is not what we want, right? We want to preview pretty quickly the total movement itself. Let's get out of here. So here's Pat's power user trick of the day. Just select it. Don't double click on it. Just select it inside the Finder. Tap the space bar. Yeah, and there it is. And now we'll be able to preview that GIF right here in the Finder. Great way to very, very quickly just look at it. So again, and let's just kind of review this sequence again, because I know that it is new and that it is different. To get our animations out of Adobe Animate and into a format that we can share on the larger World Wide Web, we go to the top of the screen where it says File and choose Export, and then it's the last option on this list, Export Animated GIF. Oh no. There's a class on the other side of this wall. I feel sorry for them. I feel sorry for them. I'm a bad neighbor because I play a lot of movies and stuff, right? So there's going to be this happens every single semester where someone will walk by and be like, hey, can you turn down your music? Anyways, okay. So you hit Export Animated GIF, and then I always do a spot check. Just play it down here just to make sure that things are looking good. I'm a happy camper, so I'll hit Save, give it a name, remember your destination where you saved it, and then we've created the two files that we'll need to submit for each assignment in this class. Okay? So when it comes time to submitting your assignment, and you guys are not done with the screen direction, but as an illustration of the process, I've gone back to my assignment sheet. Check it out. Submit assignment. Okay? Down here at the bottom, this is where I go Choose File. Okay. There we go. Oops. Grab that first one, add another file, grab the GIF, submit assignment, I'm on my way. Okay? Don't forget to hit the big blue button. If you don't hit the blue button, you haven't done anything. You haven't turned in your homework or your lab assignment. Questions on this sequence? Okay, so for our first lab assignment, you're basically going to be kind of continuing this process that we just explored, okay? Except there's a couple of requirements that I'm going to ask you to strive to meet. And almost every single one of the assignments that I have for you guys, I kind of give you guys a bulleted list of what I would like you to prepare and to create, okay? Always go back to this list before you submit, because these are fundamentally the things that these are the expectations, okay? So for this assignment, your object must travel from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen and then back to its original starting location, okay? It really is that easy. Your object can literally be anything, okay? I don't care what it looks like. The new part is the background, okay? We need to have a background that you draw or that you create that does not move, that's static, like you see in the example below it, okay? Now, with that said, how can we do that? Ideas. You can use the brush tool, for sure, for sure. Let's jump over into Animate here real fast and take a look at it, okay? So I have one layer, it's called Content, and I'm just going to double click on it and we'll just call this Sphere, okay? But if I wanted to have the background be static, what should I look to include here? What do I need to add?
Another layer.
Another layer. You got it. We want to have one layer that contains all the foreground animation, and then a subsequent layer that just contains the drawings for the background, right? Pop quiz, hot shots. It's a movie quote, by the way. Pop quiz, hot shots. What movie is it from? Oh yeah, I'm a movie nerd. Pop quiz, hot shots. Anyone? I'm dating myself. It's not from The Breakfast Club, which is iconic of my generation. Can I have a hint? It stars a very, very young Sandra Bullock.
Wait, I thought it was Pop Quiz 8.
Oh, it's
It's both. They do both. It's Speed. Yeah, it's Speed. You guys remember Speed? Probably not. Speed's the one, and it probably is maybe Sandra Bullock's first film, right? It also stars a very, very young Keanu Reeves, right? And this is the film where there's a bomb on the bus, and the bus can't go under 55 miles an hour, it's going to explode, and it can't go over 55 miles, it's going to explode. That's that movie, Speed. Anyways.
Great, now I feel old.
Yeah. All right. So, pop quiz. Pop quiz. How do we add a new layer to our timeline? Yeah, Beth.
Press the little page button.
Boom. Great job. Okay. Great job. Page icon creates a new layer. And with the second layer, okay, let's rename this. Once again, I'm going to double click on the words, call this background. There we go. Okay. Now, some interesting things here that popped up. And so when we're working with multiple layers, we need to be mindful of this, okay? Because what did it create in our timeline on my background layer?
They held the last frame.
The color of the keyframe, the color of that bar is important. It's empty, yeah. It's dark gray, dark gray. So that means it's an empty frame. There's no content in it. It's a container, it's a bucket, if you will. It's ready for some information to be in it. There's nothing inside of these frames in here. However, if you continue to examine the icons on that bar, it's a hold frame. So if I was to go here and put something on this frame, let's see what happens. Okay, it's holding a whole bunch of emptiness, if you will. And uncreatively, once again, I'm going to go to the first frame, and this time I'm not going to do a sphere, but I am going to do a square. And I want to illustrate an issue that I believe Shannon ran into. Okay. All right. So I've clicked on the rectangle tool in our toolbar, and I want you to see this in action. Okay. We have two different items that will be created for us when we start drawing with the shape tools inside of Animate. Okay. We have this, and we have this. If you have some experience inside of the Adobe product line, what are these two things? What is this thing? Yeah. This is the stroke, the outline, okay? And the paint bucket represents the fill color of this shape. Now, when you see a white square with a red line through it, what does that represent? There's no color, there's no fill, okay? So I've turned the functionality of this part off. Let's turn it back on so we can see a common issue that's going to come to the surface, okay? So if I click on it, and I'm just going to make it, I don't know, red. Why not? No, here's what I'll do. I'll make it black, and then I'll make the fill color red, okay? All right. Just made a huge red square. Let's, I want to zoom in a little bit. You can magnify here. There's also a zoom tool. 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. And now we can, well, can you guys see that stroke? It's really easy to see on my screen. but now I can see the red and then the black of the outline itself. If I clicked on it, notice that these are two clickable elements. They're independent from each other.
What if your fill and stroke both are transparent? Because that's what mine is.
Yeah, so if they're both transparent, it's this alpha value right there in the color picker. That will make it opaque. Okay, so these are separate elements from each other. Can you guys see that? I can grab the fill and the stroke independently from each other. This is kind of it's going to be a problem. Okay, it's going to be a problem. So here's the solution to the problem. Sometimes awareness is the solution, and I'm just going to go back in time, and I'm going to turn off my stroke. Okay, that way I'm just getting a red box without some sort of black outline. Okay, we'll talk about that we'll talk about how we can use these strokes going forward, because there actually is a very defined function for it. We'll save that for a later conversation. Okay. Now, so I've just gone ahead and drawn my big red sphere. Okay, look at the timeline downstairs. Because I put this on frame 1, it populated my entire timeline with that drawing. Okay, which is pretty cool. So it's holding that that background shape for all 12 of my animation frames. It is unfortunately covering up my little green sphere. I like to see my green sphere. Go ahead. Let's give it a try. So I'm gonna reorganize my layers here by just simply left-clicking and dragging it downstairs. And now my green sphere has returned. So think of these layers like planes or panes of glass. And we're painting on these panes of glass. Whatever's on top, the topmost layer of glass is going to block out the stuff that's underneath it. So we have to be mindful of this layer order to ensure that we're crafting the illusion that we're trying to craft. Okay? I want you to take this week's animation as an opportunity to simply explore the drawing tool set inside of Animate. It's very different. Okay? Have fun with it. Okay? You can do whatever you want. Whatever you want. There's no limitations to it, as long as it goes from the left side of the screen to the back side of the screen and then back to its original starting location. It's got to have a background. Your animation needs to be at least 24 frames, 720 by 1280. That's the frame size. Oops, that's the frame size of the template that we've been using. And the render file type from Animate, that should say GIF. I'm going to fix that right now. Okay, that should say GIF, not let me just do that real quick before I forget, because I'm likely to forget. So that should say GIF, not MOV MP4. Okay? Questions on what you're going to be doing for your lab assignment this week? Yeah?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I know how you brought the sphere back.
So the question was, how do I bring the sphere back? The order of our layers determines what we see. So simply dragging the background up and down on the stack by left-clicking will allow me to place it where I want it to go. So I'm left-clicking and then dragging it up. I get that black line. Now the background's on top. I can grab the sphere, left-click, and drag it up top. Now the sphere's on top. Okay. Other questions on what we're going to be doing for our lab assignment? Okay. Let's jump over into our homework assignment real fast, because this gives us an opportunity to talk about some principles of animation. Okay. Pendulum swing. Okay. As animators, let me take a step back. Mechanically, the pendulum swing is going to be very, very similar to what we just made, right? It's a pretty simple animation, okay? It's a ball. Instead of just animating one thing, now we're animating a ball and a line, right? However, it gives us a great opportunity to start talking about movement, and specifically how these principles of animation are going to determine our audience's understanding of the illusion that we're creating, okay? The one thing that our audience is always going to need to see in our animations is some sort of reminder of how physical objects in our world move. Okay? We're bombarding our audience with the abstract. Okay? We are literally showing them a walking, talking sailor duck, right? That's kind of weird and wacky. However, this walking, talking sailor duck, Donald Duck, is moving in a way that reminds them of things that they've seen over and over and over again, right? So they're a little bit more willing to believe that these things are in fact real, okay? They're a little bit more willing to have Donald Duck communicate some sort of narrative to them, okay? What is the one part of our physical universe that we can't turn off? It's gravity, okay? It's the one thing that we have zero control over. As much as I hate to say it, we can't stop gravity. It's always going to be on, okay? So the illusion and the impact of gravity should be very clear and apparent on every single animation that we create, okay? Gravity, okay? Gravity. Now, if you look at the pendulum swing here, of course, the ball moving from within the frame itself should suggest the impact of gravity. Now, we often kind of define the impact of gravity by showing our objects slowing down in certain areas, right? A pendulum is such a great example of that, right? The gravity is always pulling our objects down to the middle of the planet, right? Have you guys ever seen that classic physics example of a guy with a bowling ball attached to a pendulum, right? He holds the bowling ball right next to his face, and he let go of the bowling ball, and then he stays perfectly still, and what happens? Does he get a mouthful of bowling ball? No, the bowling ball swings away, and I've never had the bravery to do this, right? The bowling ball swings away, and then as it swings back, gravity continues to influence it, and it slows it down as the ball goes on the upward arc, and the ball goes like millimeters away from the dude's nose, right? And then it swings back away, right? Objects slow down and speed up based on the impact of physics on that object, okay? We want to start to suggest that. So we suggest that by slowing things down and speeding them up. Our pendulum swing is a great opportunity for us to do that. So where's the ball going to be moving the fastest in its little movement arc? Yeah, on frame 5, which happens if you just get rid of the numbers, okay? Where is that inside the sequence? The middle, okay? At the bottom. Why? Say again? It's had the longest chance to go down. Gravity is always pulling our shapes down to good old Mother Earth, right? So at the bottom of its movement arc, where gravity has its most effect, it's where the object is going to be moving the fastest, okay? Inversely, where is the object going to be moving the slowest? Yeah, at the boundaries, right? Where now it's kind of going uphill, and gravity again is having an inverse effect on its speed, and it's slowing because it's trying to pull it down the opposite direction, okay? So this is where our shape is going to be moving the slowest inside the pendulum, okay? Now in the art of animation, we start to describe these slowing, these easing, as they're called, these easing in and easing out of our movements by drawing the sphere close to each other. Look here. Here's frame 1, and here's frame 2, okay? This red sphere, okay? We're looking, of course, at just 9 of the animation frames of this animation, okay? Now, if you look at the distance the ball is traveling between these two frames, how would you describe it? Yeah, it's only going a little bit, right? So when we play that back at frame rate, we're going to create the illusion of it moving slow because it's only going like 1 mile an hour in there. It hasn't actually traveled that far. In comparison, so 1, 2, and 3, check it out. Does the ball move that far? No, it doesn't move that far. But on frame 4, and especially on frame 5, look how far the ball is moving now in between these frames, in between these drawings. We've drawn the ball moving a little bit further apart from each other, so the illusion that we create is something that moves faster, okay? So when we have a tremendous amount of overlap in the position of our objects inside the animation, slow. When we start to physically space out the objects in our drawings, fast. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm just going to take the animation that I've created in Animate and kind of reverse engineer this entire idea. And I'm going to do it very, very quickly because I apologize. I am running out of time. And get rid of my background. I'm also going to get rid of all of those animation frames. Here's a great way to do it. Just select them, right-click, and do cut frames. Bye-bye. Okay? That's a good way of doing it. Another way you can do it real quickly is remove frames. Okay, now they're gone. Okay, so here's my ball. Check it out. let's just do this. I'm going to hit F6, and I'm simply going to have this ball go right there. Okay, just a short trip. There's frame 1, there's frame last. Okay, I'm going to hit F6. I'll hit F6 twice. Boom, boom. Okay, I didn't hit it twice. I apologize. I may have even hit the wrong. I absolutely hit F5 twice. I'm sorry. Having a bad day. So I hit F5 twice. Okay. Now I'm going to hit F6 to convert that hold frame into an actual keyframe. And I'll turn on my onion skin so I can understand this as well. But now check it out. The distance traveled between the first drawing and the second drawing is pretty small. Okay. I'll go here, hit F6. Again, pretty small. Here is the last frame, and I'll hit F5 a couple times. And let's do this. I'm actually going to just convert these. Here we go. Okay. So same thing, kind of working in reverse on the other side of the animation. So if you look at all the keyframes, we can start to see it moves very little at the beginning and very little at the end. I really hate the spacing of this, and this is why I like working in Animate, is that I can take a step back and look at this and start to figure out if I've done a good job. That's pretty good. Now I need one more drawing in the middle, or maybe two more drawings to suggest its middle point. Okay? And given the time that I have left in the class, let's just do this. Hit F6. I've made a new frame. I've converted it into an independent drawing. And there we go. So these are the first three frames. The spacing between them is very tight, so it's going to move slowly. I have a fourth frame that defines the middle point of my animation, and three more animation frames at the conclusion to have it slowly stop. Okay? Let's see what this looks like when we hit the Enter key and play it back. Super fast, but can you guys see it? This is the loop button, by the way. It's subtle, but it's there, right? Slowly begins, goes fast, and slowly stops. Okay? It doesn't look like it's just slamming into the wall, right? Okay? These small little reminders, if you will, of gravity do a tremendous amount in establishing the illusion that we're trying to create. Okay? So look to add these overlapping frames. It's going to start to suggest, there we go. It's going to start to suggest gravity very, very directly. Okay? Very, very direct. Here's another way of looking at it. This is onion skinning. This is onion skin outlines, and this is another handy dandy way of kind of seeing your drawings. Okay? The one that's filled in is the frame that your playhead is currently on, and the other ones are just the outlines. And you can start to see that our ball moves slowly. On the fourth frame, there's a pretty big distance it travels, so the illusion that we create is fast, and then it comes to a very quick conclusion over there on the right. Okay? When you play it back slowly, you can kind of start to see you guys see it? Yeah? Slowly moves, fast, and then slowly ends. Okay? This is called ease in, ease out, or slow in, slow out. It's one of our core principles of animation, and it does a fantastic job of reminding us of the impact of gravity on our objects. Okay? The other principle of animation that we have in play here on our pendulum swing is an easy one. Okay? It's the principle of arcs. Okay? Everything in our world moves along an arced path. Nothing moves in a straight line. At times we may perceive it to be a straight line, but if we start breaking down its component pieces, it's actually a whole series of arcs. A great example of this is let's say it's like an Olympic runner going from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. It may look like this guy is just running in a very quick straight line, but when we start breaking down each animation frame, what is he doing? I mean, he looks like just real fast. But what is he actually doing? He's going like this, just very quickly, right? It's a gigantic sine curve. If you look at the top of his head, it goes up and down along an arc. Okay, if you look at the hips, which are the primary generator of almost all movement in our body, okay, the hips are going up and down. Okay, everything in our world moves along an arced path. Okay, nothing moves in a straight line. Okay, so this animation starts to enforce this idea that even as something as simple as a ball swinging from a chain needs to move in an arc. Okay. Questions on what we're going to be doing for our homework this week? There's a couple things. If you want to get some more detailed illustrations of this, go to 46 through 60 in the book. Okay. Oops. Okay, a couple things. 3 complete swings over 27 frames. 3 complete swings. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 3 complete swings. Okay. Questions? It can look however you like it to look too. I don't care. We'll let you figure that out. Yeah. The rectangle tool.
I mean, like how you know how it looks like it's with, the ball
Mm-hmm.
when it swings. How do you know?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll let you figure that out. I'm not going to give you all the answers to the puzzle. Like I said, I like challenging you guys. I'm not going to give you every single solution to every single problem. You learn more from your own personal exploration of a problem than if I was just to kind of come over here and sprinkle my magical pixie dust and fix all your problems.
This is the kind of stuff that we do in lab.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You got it. Questions? Everyone's good? Everyone's feeling it? Yeah? This too is also supposed to say GIF. I apologize. This is clearly from a really bad copy and paste job from an earlier semester. So when you're done, please make sure you're submitting both the Adobe Animate project file and then the GIF of this assignment as well. So you have 2 different things that so you're going to be submitting 4 things to Associated Dropbox over the next 7 days. The Screen Direction Lab and then the Pendulum Swing Animation homework. Everyone got it? Everyone feeling it? If you need a small little refresher to the things that we've talked about today, I would encourage you absolutely to subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is a gratuitous plug, okay? So, as you can see, I'm live streaming to YouTube right this very second, okay? So if you need to see how I put some stuff together, or if you want to get a good refresher on the entire kind of sequence that we're going through, please subscribe, or at least know that you can find today's content on the live stream or on YouTube here in a second. And it will get archived the moment I hit stop on my laptop here. It will get archived forever on my YouTube channel. So have this forever. Questions, comments, concerns? I did that good of a job? I never do that good of a job. There's always a question. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Have a good week.